Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to study about the Buddha life. So last time I talked about uh, the Four Noble Truth, and we mm, discuss about the true of surface. That means the surface of physical body as well as mentality. And the Buddha mentioned that due to the three poisons, the greed, the hatred, and ignorance, we have those sufferings. And that's why we study about those poisons of the mind. Again, uh, the Buddha reminds us that we need to recognize anger, hatred as a poison of the mind that we have learned before. So those mental afflictions uh, harm us physically, mentally, and spiritually, and the greedy mind too. It cover up our wisdom. That's why it's considered as the poison of the mind. And now, today, we continue to study about the next one, what we call the ignorance or the delusions of the mind. Here we see that's what the Buddha emphasized about the cause of suffering, the root of sufferings. Again, uh, we see that the snake here is symbolize the anger, aversions. The both here is represent attachment, greed, or negative desire, and the pigs here represent the ignorance. So they are the main causes or the roots of our sufferings. So that's why, as much as we recognize them and transfer them, we can transform our sufferings. So again, we discuss about ignorance today. So ignorance, uh, again, uh, is considered as one of the cause of suffering, and uh, the ignorant mind that will inflict uh, on our life, that will bring the sufferings on our life. Again, is considered as the root of the three poisons: the greed, the hatred, and stupidity. So let us define what is meant by ignorance in Buddhist term. So in Buddhist term, the ignorance um, mean uh, that's delusion that we could not understand the reality of life. So we need to recognize it. So in the Sanskrit term, it's called avidya. In Pali terms, it's called avijja. So the Buddhist canons is commonly translated it as ignorance. So it say that ignorance doesn't mean that we don't understand anything in Buddhist view, but there's some misconception, some delusions about the nature of metaphysical reality, especially that relate to the wrong view or the misconceptions about impermanence, the non-self, uh, doctrine of dualities, as well as serving as the root of sufferance. And that's why in the 12 clean condition, it is considered as the first link that leads us to have repeated birth. So in Buddhist teachings, uh, ignorance is considered as a misunderstanding, misconception obtains in various texts. Is considered as the first link in the 12 link conditions. Uh, that's one of the three poisons. That's one of the roots uh, of sufferance in the Mahayana Abhidharma teaching, and it is one of the 10 pillars in Theravada traditions, and is equivalent to the meanings of moha within the Theravada traditions, right here. So we see that ignorance is the first link within the 12 condition or dependence origination. Because of the ignorance, in the past we raised some kind of karmas, and from those karma it leads us to have consciousness, and this consciousness came into our life this lifetime. It raised the body and the mind and sixth sense. And when we have the sixth sense, we have contact with external world, and when we have contact, we have the feeling, the sensation. When we have the feeling, sensation, we have some kind of desire or craving. When we have some kind of desire or craving, we want to do uh, more. We want to have more. That's why we want to process more. And because of that kind of wanting, we craving for more, for existence, and that is the link of this life, and it way to have the next life, the birth, aging, and death. So these are the links that compose or determine our natural birth. Is determine where we're headed to. So again, that is the first link in this 12 cleanse condition, dependent origination. And again, the pigs represent the ignorance in the three points of the mind. And this ignorance is one of the roots. The truth is suffering, attachment, anger, pride, conceit, doubt, wrong view. So those are the roots according to Abhidharma. And this is one of the 10 feathers that's tires here. This is the number 10 here. So like belief in our individuality, doubt, belief that sacrifice and virtue and ritual we set. uh, we have impure desire, anger, desire for the birth in the world of a form, desire for the birth in the world without forms, arrogance, spiritual pride. So again, so these are the 10 feathers that ties us in this samsara or cycle of rebirth. So again, that are the um, meanings and definition of ignorance. And beside that, we have the meaning of moha. That's equivalent meanings of ignorance in Sanskrit. That is concept of characters, affliction, or poisons, and it refer to delusion, confusion, dullness. So it is similar meanings as ignorance. And again, moha or ignorance uh, go hand in hand with greed and angers that cause the sufferings within our life. So that's why the Buddha mentioned that we need to transform this type of ignorance, a delusion, a misconception about reality. So in the Mahayana traditions, again, moha or ignorance is considered the subcategories of ignorance. Uh, moha is defined as ignorance of cause and effect of realities. It brings the structural state of mind or behavior. Of course, sometimes moha may be replaced by the avidya, that means ignorance. That's listed in the three poisons categories. Of course, depend upon each traditions. But this is Mahayana or Theravada traditions. Each traditions define avidya or ignorance in different terms, in different levels, in different meanings. So basically, ignorance or avidya uh, means it doesn't uh, lack of information, but it is a more deep state of misconception of realities. And some scholars say that avidya or ignorance is considered as a partial misconception, not the absence of knowledge. Instead of being considered as a sin, is considered as the basic root of dukkha, of sufferings. So that's why we need to recognize it to transform it. So some scholar uh, suggest that we have different translation for this term avidya as unwisdom. So basically, is also uh, carry the meanings of ignorance, the meanings of uh, darkness, but it's also carry the meanings of misconception, mistaken illusions to be realities, impermanent to be permanence, a suffering to be bliss, a non-self to be self. So that is why the Buddhist scholar define it term uh, in various way. And in other contexts, uh, the avidya includes not knowing or not understanding the nature of phenomena as permanence, as impermanence. Uh, so basically, as soon as a Buddhist recognize this avidya that mm, cover the wisdom, um, so they can overcome this type of ignorance. And again, with that type of recognitions, understanding, Buddhists recognize that ignorance is opposite of understanding, that a person or other phenomena that intrinsic existence. So as long as we are covered by this ignorance or delusions, we could not recognize or understanding uh, the reality of life. So that's why uh, to practice meditations, we could overcome or transform that kind of delusions. And in its implications, uh, is that without understanding the Four Noble Truths is also considered as ignorance, avidya. So the ignorance here may obscure, obstruct our perception, our understanding of the true virtue, of the true nature of things, as same as a cataracts obstruct our views. And that's why in the Pali Canyons, it refers as the non-knowledge about the Four Noble Truths, and the non-knowledge of past life and past of future lives and of dependent arising. So again, depend upon traditions. They determine the meanings of ignorance in different terms. And in Mahai tradition, it go further. It say that as long as we still have that kind of ignorance, it could not help us to see the reality of life. We could not recognize the emptiness of things. So as long as we still carry on that type of ignorance, we attach to things as real and independency. So as long as we practice, for example, meditation to invoke our inherent wisdom, we could see things appears as illusions. They are interdependent. There's no uh, independence, intrinsic of things. So that's why in the behind the Buddhist traditions, is uh, recognize the emptiness of things. That means it's lack of inherent nature of all phenomena, including cell. Uh, so that is what we call the insight into the emptiness that could help us to have awakening, uh, uh, enlightenment. Mm. So with that type of understanding, in general, both Mahayana and Theravada traditions clarify how we recognize things as the way they are, instead of attaching to things, instead of uh, having misconception about things. So basically, uh, for both traditions, they recognize as long as we have ignorance, we could not recognize the impermanence of things. We could not recognize the egolessness of things. We could not recognize the sufferings of things. And so that's why the Buddha reminds us that we need to accept or recognize the reality of life. So the first one is that we need to recognize life is permanent. Everything is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. All physical and mental events come into beings and dissolve. So, like our human lives, uh, we have to go through the four process of being born, having a kind of illnesses, aging, and death. And so we have to go through that type of repetitions uh, from that time to the next. So nothing lasts forever. Everything is come and go. And So, like in the Potu Sutras, one day the Buddha asked the monk, uh, you know the lifespan of a human life? So someone say, well, human life can last within a day. The Buddha say, well, you don't understand about my teaching. And the other monks say, well, yeah, human life can last within the durations of a meal. And the Buddha say, well, you have not understood my teaching too. So another monk replied to Buddha, well, our human lives uh, is limited within a breath. So Buddha say, wow, okay, you understand my teaching then. So again, that is the impermanence of life, impermanence of this physical body. So with inhalation, but without exhalation, let's say for 8 minutes, we could not uh, sustain our life. We could not survive. So most of the time, we consider this physical body as real, mm, as solid. Uh, it would last forever, but in reality, it's not that case. We uh, have the strength to sustain our life now, but who knows, the next moment we will not be here. Especially nowadays, we have encounter the coronavirus pandemic that's happened everywhere around the world, and we could see the impermanent principle happen every day. Last week, uh, the number of deaths is lesser, much lesser than this week. Up to today, we have uh, more than 1 million people around the world that have been infected by this coronavirus, and more than 60,000 people die around the world too. And the rate of unemployment in the United States uh, jump up to more than 6 million people, and this is quite different from um, other times. In many decades, we would not see this kind of unemployment rate like this. And again, um, now our lives, most of us have to recognize that they uh, change uh, in the upside down way. So many of us lost our jobs. We closed our shop, our companies. We keep distance from other people, even sometimes our family members too. So it would not happen last month. We could not imagine that we come to this type of situations. So that is what we call the impermanence of life. And things come suddenly without much warning. Um, so of course, if something's happening, we could recognize, but sometimes it's go beyond our imagination, especially this kind of fluctuation in life, the upside down changing of our new life when we live with this kind of pandemics that's happened nowadays. So let me show you some video clips that illustrate my points about the impermanence. So up to now, actually this is the core records that's review what's going on with the coronavirus happening around the world, and that changed how people believe, how people live around the world.
Likely to soon forget. It was the month that a new coronavirus that had infected tens of thousands in China became a global pandemic. Take a look at the infection rates. On March the 1st, nearly 89,000 cases of COVID-19, the disease caused by the virus, had been reported worldwide. Then, the vast majority of the cases were still in China, the original epicenter of the disease. By the end of the month, infections worldwide increased nearly 10 times to nearly 860,000 cases, and deaths soared from over 3,000 to more than 40,000. But how did things get so bad so quickly? Early March saw Iran and Italy suffer dramatic increases in infection numbers. Iran's health minister was one of the first public officials to be visibly sickened by the disease. Iran's epidemic reached the top levels of its government, and mass graves were dug in the countryside. In Italy, the virus spread fast, despite early attempts to protect citizens from the novel coronavirus. The nation had already declared a state of emergency by the end of January, after a Chinese couple holidaying in Rome tested positive for COVID-19. Italy reported its first local case on February 20th, but scientists believe the virus had already been circulating in the country for some time. During Italy's peak flu season, people were being diagnosed with influenza when they may have actually had COVID-19. Infections in Italy rose from 4 cases on February 20th to nearly 106,000 by the end of March. By the end of the month, nearly 12,500 deaths related to COVID-19 were also recorded, more than 3 times the number of fatalities in China. This despite the government ordering a lockdown for the entire country on March the 9th.
Decisione giusta oggi è di restare a casa. Il futuro nostro dell'Italia è nelle nostre mani.
Visiting Chinese medical professionals said more needed to be done.
我看到了他的公交车牌的运行，我看到了他的人牌的运行，我看到酒店的人牌。
And you see that. Let's just talk about the last month. And so Italy is affected greatly by this coronavirus. That took more than 12,000 lives. But up to now, the United States leads the casualties and the special cases. So that's happened that go beyond people's imaginations, and that is what we call impermanence of life. And let me show you another clips that we need to recognize.
Joining us live in Manhasset this afternoon with one nurse's story. Greg.
Actually, Stephen, it's a doctor's story, and her story is personal and very emotional. She's treating some of the most serious patients, COVID-19 patients, here at North Shore University Hospital, and she describes the last 10 days as among the saddest and most harrowing of her entire career.
Back for another shift at work.
Dr. Evelina Graber documented parts of her day for us. She calls these days heart-wrenching. 12 to 16 hours inside a COVID-19 unit at North Shore University Hospital. Every one of her patients seriously ill and on a ventilator.
You walk in, and it's hard for me to say, but you can actually smell fear. You smell death walking into the hospital. Very different feel at this period of time.
That different feeling, she says, is one of helplessness. There's little she and her colleagues can do for the patients on their unit. Half are well below the age of 60, people who just days ago had no health issues.
The real picture is that the disease is way more severe than anybody could actually imagine. I cried. I think that's okay to actually say the fact that I do allow myself to, at a certain point, feel what this actually means.
Thinking of her 12-year-old daughter helps her get through the day, she says, but it also weighs heavily on her mind.
There's a fine line where you want to be able to put your life on the line and protect, but at the same time knowing that what you could be doing inside, you're bringing home with you and can infect your loved ones. I have my headgear on, I have my goggles on, I have the mask.
Like many on the front lines, Dr. Graver says PPE is running short. She rewears masks and goggles that normally would be thrown away. There's no other choice. Earlier this week, Dr. Graver heard neighbors clapping at 7 o'clock, not realizing until her daughter explained that the cheers were for medical staff like her.
I stopped in my tracks and I started to cry. I think all of that emotion that pent up within the last 10 days that I've been in this hospital, I released right there. Now I'm actually walking to the unit. Be safe, everyone.
Okay, you see that. According to this doctor, she mentioned that for some of her patients, for the first few days before they were admitted into a hospital, they were normal people, they were healthy people, but suddenly they show the symptom of the coronavirus infection, and some of them lost their life too. So that's what they call impermanence of life. And of course, it relates to what we call in Buddhism dukkha, sufferings. When things change from being healthy into the state of illness, and from the state of illness, someone may pass away. So that is what happened to human lives, especially during this crisis moment, during this pandemic outbreak. Again, for the one that were infected by this coronavirus, it's pretty hard on them, and for the ones who lost their loved one, again, it's not easy to handle, to go through this type of brief periods, but still we recognize as impermanence of life. And if we look at the history of a country, if we look at anything that surrounding us, they come and go. That's why in Buddhist view, things come into beings. That's the first stage, and the second stage is to have the stabilities, and the next stage, or the third stage, is decaying, and the last stage is disappearance. So everything go through that types of process. The four process of duration, stability, decaying, and disappearance. So nothing could be escaped from those processes, and that's reality of life. We need to recognize, otherwise it's not easy for us to handle. Let me show you some image here. Here's the human life cycle. So from the fertilized eggs, we became a fetus, and from fetus we were a baby, being a child, grown up as teenager, as adult, old age, and death. So there's a cycle of life, and no one could escape from that. That is impermanence of life. So if there's some medicine that can prolong our life for a couple more 100 years, but still we could not live forever because of the impermanence of life. And here, the circle of water, we see that, let's say, the water from the ocean will be evaporated, into the cloud, and it rain down to the ground. And this is kind of circulation of water. Yeah, it's keep moving, mm, everlasting, and not only water, but also all kind of things, like even the life cycle of plastic. Right? So we produce uh, some kind of plastic, and it go to distribution for us to use for a while, and we have to recycle, and they may melt the plastic down again to do not the production. So again, look at this type of US jobless claims. Uh, no one could imagine that one day we have this peak, or let's say even during some kind of fluctuation of economies from the 70s up to now, no one could expect we have that peak. More than 6.6 million people claim unemployment benefit up to now. Probably it may be more if we could not subdue this type of coronavirus outbreak. And again, this is a cycle of uses from expansion, the peak, the recession, depression, recovery, expansion, and so forth. So life is changing moment by moment. Nothing lasts forever. So that's why we need to understand um, this type of impermanence principle. With that type of understanding, we have the wisdom to recognize the reality of life. If we don't recognize this, we may bring the suffering for ourselves. We may not accept what's going on now. And of course, not only happen to human beings, to all phenomena, but also to all visible and invisible beings, including human beings, animal beings, deva, that means celestial beings. In Buddhist view, we were born again and again in samsara, or the cycle of the birth, in what we call six part of the birth. Like we born in human, sometimes we born in human, sometimes we born in heaven, and sometimes we born in the what we call demigod, or the fighting god. And sometimes we may be born down as animals, or we may go down to hell realms, or go down to the realm of hungry ghosts, addicted ghosts, and so forth. So this is the path that brings us uh, uh, since the past up to now, and into the future too. So no one could escape from this kind of sixth part of the birth, according to Buddhist view. So that is the impermanence principle that we need to recognize. Otherwise, when we uh, sick, we may blame on other people about our sickness, or when we lost our jobs, we may be frustrated, we may be depressed, uh, we uh, may have all kind of anxiety, and even when we are going to end our life on earth, will be scary for us. But of course, as a Buddhist, if we have some kind of practices, we would know that as long as we create good karma, those karma will lead us back to human realms, or to the celestial realms, or heavenly realms. Otherwise, if we raise some kind of bad karma, we may be born in the lower realms of existence, of animals, hell realms, and realm of prostrate craving. And that is reality of life. if we expand our view in the previous of times, and according to the Buddhists, so if we recognize that our lifespan here on earth would not be infinite, but it has some limitations. That means we may live up to 100 or 110 and so forth, and we have to go. But for all the sentient beings, there's a celestial beings or heavenly beings, they may live longer than us, but still, um, whether they have longer lifespan, but one day they have to uh, move on to different realms depend upon their own karma. Here is what they call the 31 plan of existence according to the Pali tradition, according to the Theravada traditions. Here is the hell. It's 8 kinds of hot hell and 8 kinds of cold hell. And these animal realms, of course, including all kinds of animals on air, on earth, and under the water, and pedagogue ghosts, unhappy spirits, sugar or demons. They might God that like to fight. And here, the word of human beings, according to Buddhist teachings, we may have lifespan from 10-year-old up to 84,000 year old. So we are in this age of 100-year-old lifespan. And if we move up to other heaven, uh, like Katuma, Rajika, their lifespan much longer than us. One of their celestial days is equivalent to 50 human years. So they live up to 9 million human years and move up to Tavatimsa heaven. Their one celestial days is equivalent to 100 human year. And they live up to 36 million human years, and up to what they call to Sita heaven. They have one celestial days is equivalent to 400 human years, and their lifespan is 4,000 celestial years. That means that's equivalent to 576 million human years. So it's more up further and further. The further up, the longer lifespan they have. That is in the realm of design, in the realm of form, in the realm of formless, and so forth. But in Buddhist view, whether they live up to trillion of years, still one day they have to move on to different realms of existence because nothing lasts forever. Even if some of them fall down into the hell to pay their own debt, own karmas, one day they would have the chance to get out if their karma have been expired. So again, in Buddhist view, nothing lasts forever. So that is why we need to recognize this type of impermanence in our life, and that's why we need to accept the reality of life. If we try to resist, if we try to fight with this nature of life, the impermanence of life, we bring our own sufferings, especially nowadays when we deal with this type of crisis, the corona virus outbreak. If we don't accept the reality that we need to stay home uh, to be safe, we uh, may go out and to have a party. Of course, it may bring more disaster to ourselves and others. We may get the virus as well as spreading that kind of virus to other people. Uh, so that's why we need to recognize why we need to accept the reality. So before I end my presentation here today, let me show you a brief video clip about the city try to deal with social distance, try to implement the rules and regulation on people to have social
to
distance.
practice social distancing to help slow the spread of the coronavirus. But in crowded cities across the country, that is not always easy to do.
No, it is not. And small places, small spaces at home have pushed many people outside, but busy grocery and convenience stores are now forced to find creative ways to keep those people apart. Our national correspondent, Jerika Duncan, is looking at some of these challenges. Jerika, good morning. There's a pizza place in my neighborhood with a takeout window, and they've spray painted on the sidewalk, "No standing here." It seems like it's kind of more extreme.
I definitely believe that. And, you know, I think the efforts that people are making are going to be helpful, you know, in the end. And both New York State and California government officials are starting to really come down hard on crowds at outdoor spaces like parks and beaches. In fact, the governor of California is now shutting down all parking at state parks to help discourage visitors. And in Los Angeles, city officials there have also warned that law enforcement officers will not be shy when it comes to enforcing the rules.
In cities where space is already tight, staying at least 6 feet apart from other people has become increasingly challenging.
You almost accidentally don't do it a bunch of times because you forget and then you have to like take a step back.
Matt Zender in Seattle says he was initially surprised by grocery store policies to help keep customers at a distance. Several major chains are limiting the amount of people allowed inside. Others are adding visual cues like these tape squares to space out customers waiting in line, or placing large crates in front of registers to keep people away from cashiers.
It's so helpful if we can implement policy controls and environmental controls that help people alter our behavior.
Carolyn Canusio is the Director of Research at the Center for Public Health Initiatives at the University of Pennsylvania. She says the other key to social distancing in cities is timing.
If we need to go out for exercise, we need to try to do that at times when the public parks or paths are not very busy. If we need to go to the grocery store, we should try to either order ahead and just pick up the groceries.
So anyway, so you see that because of the outbreak of the coronavirus happening everywhere around the world, especially in this country. So we need to implement the social distance so that we can slow down the spread of this virus. Otherwise, if we have interaction directly with each other, we spread the virus in the way that we harm ourselves and others. Of course, for many people, it's not easy to adapt to this type of changing. So this is a new life that each of us need to recognize. Otherwise, if we resist about this current change, we may bring the harms and suffering on ourselves and others. As mean we may have the coronavirus as well as spreading that type of virus to other people, that we may lose our life as well as our loved one. So that's why maintaining the social distance is very important nowadays. That we need to adapt and accept this type of new life so that we can minimize the spread of the virus. So with that acceptance, we could move on until the scientists develop some type of drugs to subdue this type of virus. After that, we can get back to our normal lives. In meantime, we need to have like adaptations in this type of crisis moment. Otherwise, again, if we could not accept the reality of life, the reality of impermanence of life, and to go out and socialize with other people, to have party, like birthday parties, or going to the beach and so forth. We bring the harm on ourselves and others. Okay, so let's us end today, and next time I can discuss further the other principle in this honorable truth. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. See you soon. Thank you.